Hi, guys. Welcome back to Get to Know a Nurse with Pinnacle Healthcare Staffing. For those who don't know me, my name is Janae, and we are here with Tiffany. So, Tiffany is also a nurse in the Philadelphia area.
Mhm.
She does even more than nursing, which we're about to get into. So, I'll just start off, Tiffany. Tell me about you. Tell us about your story. Why did you get into nursing? Let's hear it.
Yeah, so nursing is my second degree.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bachelor's in public health from Temple University
Okay.
and was doing a lot of sex education. Always knew that I enjoyed taking complex concepts and simplifying them for people so that they can make informed decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was at Temple, I was a certified health educator, did a lot of sex ed, gave out condoms, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And during my internships, and I had two, one of them was teaching sex ed to high school students, and they would come up to me with the most random, outrageous myths, or
I can only imagine.
can you look at my bump, or
Right.
that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh wow. So then I got interested in like the body, the
Mhm.
physical, and the treatment of some of the STIs that I
Mhm.
was encountering
Mhm.
with these kids. So I'm doing the education, which my
Right.
goal was to be preventative,
Right.
but a lot of the kids were already out there. They were out
Right.
there and they were having sex. And so I was interested in nursing, one, because it's a stable career, but two, like,
Mhm.
how can I further help this
Yes.
particular population?
Mhm.
So I went back to school to get my bachelor's in nursing and then
Mhm.
started working at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia on their adolescent unit
Okay.
and started a sex ed program on their adolescent unit for patients who were admitted for prolonged STI
Okay.
issues
Mhm.
and had a little initiative there. So that was pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I had known that you were in the clinical side at
yeah.
CHOP, but I didn't realize all that you were doing with your education before. That's
Hmm.
so cool.
Yeah.
So you've progressed a lot since being at CHOP.
Mhm.
Tell me, how you've grown with education and nursing, where you're at now.
Yeah, so nursing education period has always been an underlying thread in every change of career that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
While at CHOP, I grew to be a charge nurse, a preceptor, and co-chairs of a couple of the committees. I became a BLS first aid and CPR instructor. So
Nice.
education was always my
Yeah.
thing. Picked up a few side hustles as a clinical educator. And then when I left CHOP, I became a full-time educator for
Mm-hmm.
Abington Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
got my master's in nursing education, and then
Mm-hmm.
really kind of dove into professional development, which is where
Yeah.
my business, New Nurse Academy, started.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm actually back in the clinical side
Yeah.
as a nurse manager, but I still do a lot of coaching, even with my teams, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
education. So the education is still there.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
So how would you describe it, whether you're talking to a nurse who's in the clinical setting and thinking of getting into education, or you're talking to someone who's in the educational setting thinking of nursing? What advice would you give, or how would you describe that balance?
Yeah, so there's so many different ways that nurses can get into education without it being the traditional nurse educator
Mm-hmm.
title. They can precept or orient a new hire. So
Mm-hmm.
anybody coming into your unit, you can be the person that shows them what to do, where things are, and help them with their skills. If you are in a leadership position, by default, you are also educating. At least you
Yeah.
should be.
Right.
You should be. And if you don't want to do that in your clinical role, you can always look at nursing schools to
Mm-hmm.
see, can you help with simulation in the
Mm-hmm.
lab? Can you teach a course? Can you be a clinical instructor and take the students to their clinical site?
Mm-hmm.
I also taught in a high school, Martin Luther King High School in Mount Airy. I
Oh,
taught there for a
really?
term because they have vocational programs where they teach high school students how to be medical assistants.
Mm-hmm.
And I taught that for about a year right after I had a baby and I was trying to make some life decisions
Right.
on what do I want to do.
Right. As
And
it happens, as it always
yeah,
does.
yeah. And that was a pretty cool schedule because it's a school schedule, in by
Mm-hmm.
8, out by 2, summers
Right.
off, half days, snow days, all the things. So I was still clinical, but I was
Right.
also educating. So there's so many different ways that you can
Yeah.
do that. You can teach BLS.
Mm-hmm.
You can teach first aid to
Mm-hmm.
daycare centers
Mm-hmm.
and the police. And there's just
Mm-hmm.
so many different ways that nurses can get into education
Yeah.
without having to go to school to get a degree.
Yeah. So for those, whether it's a young nurse who's starting their first preceptor role
Hmm.
or just nurses who are in those introductory level leadership or even leadership in general and are just kind of struggling with like, how do I do this, or like my team this or whatever, like when you're coaching with New Nurse Academy, what are some of the main tips or like the biggest things of advice that you usually give to people that are entering or struggling in their leadership roles?
First and foremost, emotional intelligence. I'm going to preach that high on the mountaintops. If you don't know yourself and understand what bothers you, what triggers you, and where your emotions come from, and how your nervous system gets activated, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to effectively lead other people.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Regardless if your title is manager, even if you are just the staff nurse, it's going to be hard for you to have a really good relationship with a patient that can be challenging if you are allowing their challenges to affect you and how you show up and how you engage and interact with them. So emotional intelligence is first, which is basically knowing how to manage yourself so you can manage other people. As a leader, that is paramount because people are looking to you to manage them. They're looking for you for solutions, for change, for any problems that they have, any gripes. You are it. And so you have to manage that, and you have to be aware that people are looking for you to solve their problems. And so you can have a bad day, but how do you manage yourself in your bad day so that you can help other people be successful?
Yeah. Well, and would you say that most of those problems at the end of the day somehow are always related to something interpersonal? Like
Yes.
almost all of the problems in any field, I feel like
Yeah.
it's always something that's emotional or personal. It may be a technical issue, like it could be like, hey, my patient, like this reading was wrong and I administered a wrong, what should I do?
Yes.
You're not addressing the technical side, you're addressing the person who's freaking out about their mistake.
Yes. Even if it's staffing, which we all know that staffing is a big issue in nursing. And so I get it. You don't have enough resources, people, hands to do all the things. A lot of times when I'm talking to my team about staffing, it's managing their emotions on how they feel about lack of staffing.
Right.
Because we can come up with a solution and be creative and innovative and we can figure it out, but they're upset that their teammate called out or whatever the case may be. So I am managing the disappointment. I am managing the frustration. So you're right, it is intrapersonal, where people's emotions bubble up to the top. And so as a manager, I have to manage the emotions and then also problem solve for the situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, this all leads into New Nurse Academy, and we've been like kind of dropping that word within the last minute or so, but like walk me through, how did New Nurse Academy start?
Yeah.
Kind of explain to me, for those who don't know Tiffany's business, New Nurse Academy, like how would you describe it? What's the goal? Let me hear it.
So New Nurse Academy started in 2017, and at the time I was a clinical instructor teaching my students how to prepare to pass the NCLEX. And so just for ethical reasons, I created an LLC because they were paying me for my time, but I didn't want them paying Professor Gibson. They had to pay somebody else just to separate church and state,
of course.
right?
Of course.
So that's where the business came from. I didn't wake up saying, I'm going to start a business. Like, I want to be a nurse entrepreneur. It really was, I'm spending extra time with you outside of our required engagements. And I want to be compensated for this, but also they wanted to compensate me for this. But I also didn't want them going back saying, yeah, I gave, Professor Gibson X amount of dollars. That can be a little, So created a business entity so that the money technically doesn't come to Tiffany Gibson. It goes to New Nurse Academy. But then as my business grew, because the nurses that I taught passed the NCLEX, and then they grew, and they kept coming back for more development and more coaching. I'm like, okay, this is a thing.
Right. You're like, okay, now I should maybe like,
this is a thing. And if you have, and if you have these problems, I'm sure other people do. And so my business started in 2017, but in 2019, I created a virtual preceptor community called the Personal Preceptor Club.
This is pre-COVID.
Yeah. Girl, I've been in business for a while.
Yes. You knew already. She's like, virtual me.
Yes, already. So I created a community and put myself out there on Instagram to say, hey guys, I'm an educator. I have the clinical background, but also I recognize that this piece of your onboarding may be missing.
Yep.
Let me help you. So created a
Mhm.
community, and that community was successful.
Yeah.
And then since then, I had a lot of business coaching, and in my business coaching, there was personal coaching.
Mhm.
And that is how New Nurse Academy grew. So I never changed the name New Nurse Academy,
Mhm.
even though I no longer cater to just new
New
nurses.
nurses. Yeah.
Right now, New Nurse Academy is the rejection of anything that didn't serve nursing before. It's a new
Yeah.
mindset.
Mhm.
It's the new nurse. It's, the
Hmm.
emergence of a new culture and a new
Yeah.
climate in nursing. And that's what New Nurse Academy stands for now.
I love that. I
Thank
love
you.
how it grew from that, and like maybe you it's just so funny how life works. Like you
Yeah.
didn't realize what was going to come with New Nurse Academy. You were just like, whatever.
Yes.
And now you're like, you know what? We are making the new
Yes.
nurse.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what do you see for the future for the new nurse? What does that look like to you?
So it starts all with the intrapersonal.
Mhm.
So teaching new nurses how to change their framework on how they see things in nursing, because
Yeah.
there are some things that we cannot control.
Mhm.
We can't control the system. We
Mhm.
can't
Yep.
control the corporation of it all, the politics of it all. We can't control the money and the resources. The only thing we can control is ourselves and how we show up in nursing.
Yep.
So if you're not leaving, right? If
Right.
you don't want to go fold sweaters at the Gap, and you right, if
If you
you
can still do it.
if you're still going to use your
Right.
license, then let me help you with just framing and tweaking your
Yeah.
mindset on how you show up,
Mhm.
which includes releasing the fact that nursing is not your identity. A lot of people lead with that. I'm a nurse. It's like, no, you're a person,
Right. I'm Tiffany. I'm also a
and I
nurse.
just so
I'm
happen to be a
also an
nurse, and
educator.
that's my occupation.
Right.
Nursing does not define me. It doesn't consume me.
Mhm.
There's so many other things to my life that I enjoy.
Yep.
And so emotional intelligence also helps with the other aspects of life,
Yes.
parenting, living with somebody, just you yourself. But then also, it definitely helps with being a nurse.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it does. And
Mhm.
there's proof that it has patient satisfaction, staff satisfaction, more retention, all
Mhm.
the things. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we are now, and what I'm teaching new nurses, and how I'm showing up in this space.
Yeah. So you would say, and I know the answer, but you just so that we're very clear, emotional intelligence in nursing is directly correlated to emotional intelligence in your personal life.
Absolutely.
Right.
One and the same. It's essential. It's
Mhm.
literally the key to life.
Mhm.
If you don't know how to manage being late, having a flat tire, getting stuck in traffic,
Mhm.
somebody else disappointed you. If you don't know how to manage that,
Mhm.
how you go through life is really going to suck.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And I believe that how you do one thing is how you do all things.
Mm.
And so if you can internalize emotional intelligence, it would pop up in, I say, the 5 areas of life,
Mhm.
which is health, wealth, business, love, and family. I think you can put all aspects of life into one of those buckets,
Right.
with emotional intelligence being the umbrella.
I see. That's a really great analogy. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you see the future? Maybe I won't go the classic, what's your 5-year plan? But like, what do you see for the future of New Nurse Academy? What do you see for the
Mm-hmm.
future of Tiffany? Where are you going?
So, the future of New Nurse Academy is to create a curriculum that emotional intelligence can be licensed as an educational content
Mhm.
in schools of nursing and in healthcare organizations. And so, whether that is for leaders, for preceptors, for
Mhm.
new hires, or just continuing education, there's going to be some content or curriculum from New Nurse Academy that is infused in the annual clinical
Right.
modules.
Right.
Everybody has mandatory modules that we have
Right.
to do. So New Nurse Academy's education will be a part of that. And because we're a
Nice.
licensed professional, we have to
Mhm.
do continuing education.
Right.
So I want my content to be part of the offerings that
Right.
people have.
Right.
Also part of the syllabus at nursing schools. Like,
Mhm.
part of your leadership course should be emotional intelligence. And actually, even before then, when you first come in and you're doing foundations,
Mhm.
emotional intelligence starts
Yep.
then.
Yep.
It starts
Yep.
then. So that is the future of New Nurse Academy. I am still doing consulting, coaching. I
Mhm.
still have a community.
Yeah.
My next big thing is to write a book about emotional intelligence. I'm working on
Love
that.
it.
And the goal is to license that out so that I can retire from
Yeah.
nursing and just do speaking engagements.
Yeah.
around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always see you on your Instagram just chatting about like something that happened to you during the day
Yes.
and being like, hey, this reminded me of something super
Yes.
important.
Yes. I did that this morning
Did
actually.
you? I didn't see it yet.
So I am currently looking for 2 RNs
Mm-hmm.
for 2 sites that I manage, and I'm going through maybe 30 applications
Mm-hmm.
and resumes.
Mm-hmm.
And so after maybe the 5th resume, I hopped on Instagram and I said, all right, guys. All right.
You're like, okay,
All
resume
right.
workshop 101 right
Yes.
now.
All right. I'm noticing this trends. I don't know where it's coming from, but like here's my 2 cents on it,
Right.
right? Like curate your resume for the job that you want.
Yeah.
I work in an outpatient pediatric primary care setting. Don't tell me about postmortem care because
Right.
hopefully never we're seeing dead bodies.
Right.
Like that should not be
Right.
the first skill on your list of things.
Right.
Also, don't list your skills. Also, don't put your picture on your resume. So that was my little rant this morning on Instagram. And I do that often and try to show the correlation between emotional intelligence and
Yes.
what I do every day as a
Mm-hmm.
manager.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Thank you.
I just, I'm so happy you were able to come in just because I know you're
Yeah.
so busy, but I just, all the content that I see you doing, I know that it's so valuable to everybody that also watches this.
Thank
Of
you.
course. So I also, at Pinnacle, we like to ask questions about you as Tiffany.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is, as a nurse, and as a teacher and educator,
Yeah.
you give lots of care and attention to your patients, your students. Who is the person or the people in your life that give you a lot of love?
Oh, my man. Oh, I'm such a sucker for love. Oh, my
I
man, my man, my man.
love it.
Yeah, he's my person, and we have learned each other on
Mm-hmm.
such a deep spiritual level that we know what the other person needs without them having to vocalize that, which it took us a long time to get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
using emotional intelligence in our relationship also. But he's my safe space. I would say him first, and then I enjoy spending time with my girls. I have a almost 2-year-old and an almost 10-year-old, and they're a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fun. I also like to spend a lot of time with myself, just
Yeah.
knowing me and knowing my energy type and my makeup. I need alone time.
Yep.
It is essential for me to have alone time in order for me to show up as my best self. And so, after spending time with those two,
Mm-hmm.
with those three,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, all right, guys, and
Mommy's dipping out for a moment.
going to Target for a little bit. Be back.
Like,
Yeah.
did you see the Starbucks receipt? No, you didn't.
Yep. See ya. Yeah.
So, on that note, what's working really well in your life right now?
Ooh, I like that. I have autonomy of my schedule, which I
Mm.
love. And even though I am a clinical nurse manager,
Mm-hmm.
I still have autonomy of my schedule. I can plan my day how I want to. I'm able to be here in the middle of the day because that's how I planned my day.
Yeah.
And that's really important to me that I have non-negotiables with my time. Time freedom is one of my core values that I live by. And so I want to do what I want when I want, how I want. And so I'm able to manage being a mom and a significant other and a business owner and a nurse manager because I have autonomy of my time.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I personally also identify with that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably one of my biggest attributes to also having success.
Yes.
Like, when you can manage your time like that,
yes,
you get so much better work done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no pressure. There's no anxiety. I take breaks when I want. I show up when I want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to ask permission to not come to work.
Right.
Which is, I'm grown. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
if I want to stay home, I want to stay home. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And that's what's working really well is that I don't want to call it balance. I reject that term, work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
I call it harmony.
Like that a lot.
I call it harmony, where there's times when I prioritize different aspects of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm either prioritizing being a mom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm prioritizing myself, I'm prioritizing him, I'm prioritizing being a manager, which means someone somewhere is not getting all of me.
Right.
But they know that because I'm prioritizing this.
Right.
And so, yep, that works.
I love that. What are you most self-confident about?
My ability to educate.
That's good. That's a good one.
I enjoy pouring into people. I enjoy having conversations about life and the connection to spirit and how we show up in energy and vibration. And I am very self confident in the fact that I have information that can be useful.
Mm-hmm.
And I just enjoy sharing it and being a public speaker and being an educator.
I love that. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. Ooh, I'm so excited for this one just because I think you're gonna have a great answer. Um, what has become clearer to you as you've gotten older?
Oh, that is a good
I
answer.
just am getting like just from our conversation, I'm like, I want to know what she has to say.
Slowing down.
Mm,
I was definitely a part of that nursing culture where I felt like I needed to climb the clinical ladder. So,
mm-hmm,
how soon can I be charge nurse? How soon can I be on this committee? Okay, I need my master's. I need specialty certifications. I have all the things. I have
mm-hmm,
3 degrees. I have 2 professional nursing certifications.
mm-hmm.
I am a part of. I have all the things. The
Right,
resume is there,
right.
but then it's like, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Now what?
yep.
Because in order to maintain that, I have to do a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
which is not on my bucket list,
Right.
right? Because time freedom is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
It really is slowing down. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in this phase of my life now where I enjoy taking my girls to school and picking them up every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. And if one of
Yeah.
them has a field trip or needs to come home because she's sick, I'm free.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I have a partner who helps me, but it's like I like knowing that I
Yeah.
also am capable of doing that and don't have to worry about leaving work
Right.
to pick up the girls or
Mm-hmm.
no. Slowing down is really important.
Yeah.
Hmm.
For someone who's still or forever will be primarily in that clinical setting where you're still
Hmm.
doing shift work and things like
Hmm.
that, do you have any advice or how you would slow down if you were still working for someone else?
Yeah, I would say be mindful of the overtime that you pick up and be mindful of just even how you schedule yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I worked primarily nights when I was at the bedside, and I enjoyed nights. Nights worked well for me. Some people, their body rejects night
Yeah.
shifts. So I get that. Nights worked well for me. And I would purposefully group them in a row. So I worked my 312. So I
Mm-hmm.
would be off for long
Yeah.
stretches at a time
Mm-hmm.
without having to use my time off.
Mm-hmm.
And no one was looking for me. And I still fulfilled all my requirements for
Mm-hmm.
scheduling, but that worked. So I
Mm-hmm.
can take a road trip or go on vacation and do whatever and still pour into me and still get adequate sleep and rest. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
the thing about night shift. It takes a good 24 hours for you to like
Yep.
balance yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the capability to do all that. So
Yeah.
just be mindful about the extra hours that you're picking up. Um, because why? Are you doing it for
Right.
you or are you doing it for the unit? And if you're doing it for the unit, they're going to rely on you to continue to do that for the unit.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, it becomes a little bit resentful.
Yeah.
And so you just want to be mindful about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great sentiment because it's
Yeah.
true. It's so
Hmm.
true. Um, what is something you wish people understood about you?
Oh, wow. Something I wish people understood about me that I am an introvert slash hermit.
Tell me.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really big into human design and
Mm-hmm.
energy types. And I've known all along that while I enjoy educating and public speaking, that depletes me.
Yep. Okay.
It
Hmm.
depletes me. And so I give so much energy
Mm-hmm.
to others that at the end
Mm-hmm.
it's like, whew, I don't have nothing else to give to nobody else.
Right. You're like lights are off. It's
What?
done.
Social battery
Mm-hmm.
depleted.
Mm-hmm.
And that also includes how I show up for my kids. And so,
Yeah.
like, what are we getting from Uber Eats?
She
Because
said it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
I'm not cooking. And the housekeeper will come and clean the house.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that I am successful enough where I can
Yeah.
afford conveniences
Mm-hmm.
because it allows me to work in my passion, which is
Yes.
educating others.
Yes.
But then also, I know that after giving so much of myself,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, I'm
Yep.
done. I'm on the couch and I am a hermit.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about that, like especially growing up, whether you're lower, middle class, or maybe not even bringing class into it, when we think of conveniences like that, it's so easy to be like, oh, I could never have a maid. It's like, well, or a housekeeper. It's like, well, the thing that I'm passionate about is my education. So my priorities are a little different. If cleaning came easier to me, or if cleaning maybe was my release, maybe I wouldn't do this. Maybe I would spend money
Right.
going out,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because there's a lot of us and a lot of people that the way they unwind
Yeah.
is going out
Yes.
and spending money doing other things.
Yeah.
But for you as an introvert, you say, okay, I don't really want to go out.
No.
I would rather spend that money and let someone clean my house.
Absolutely.
So we all spend our money different ways. I just think it's so, like, that's something that should be rewritten. The way that you just said that about having a housekeeper, it's like, yes, you are successful, and that's, part of the reason you can do it, but it's also, you just decide how you want to spend your money.
And how I want to spend my energy.
Yeah.
Because if it's going to take me 2 days to clean the house, I'm no good to anybody.
Right.
I don't want to do it. It's not a passion of mine. It's not that I don't know how. I just would rather not.
Right. And why, if I have the resources not to,
I would rather not. And why
Right.
not have somebody who is passionate about
Right.
doing this work, do the work.
Right.
This is her house. Like when Miss Julia comes over, I ask her where she wants me to put things because it's her house.
Right.
And she loves doing it. And there's love and compassion and the way she puts things together in the girls' room and fix their toys. It's like this,
yeah, like
go
that's
ahead,
your thing.
And it allows me to decompress. It allows me to spend more time with the girls. I do have a lot going on. I am busy, and so I'd rather take that time to do something productive and that's quality.
Yep.
Than do something that I don't want to do that's going to take me forever.
Right.
And then I still don't have time to spend with them.
Right. Well, and then it takes more energy from you.
Yes.
So then even the time that you do have, you're even more depleted because it's not something that gives you energy if you're not interested. Exactly. Well, on that note, Pinnacle, and the reason why I love your content so much is the biggest thing for us is our tagline is taking care of nurses so nurses can take care of you. And I always see you talking about self-care and emotional intelligence and wellness. So if you could talk to all the employers in the nursing industry, what would you advise them to do to better support their nurses?
Okay, I'm about to get on a soapbox for a second.
Go off.
Because I see that there are a lot of wellness initiatives from hospitals and even schools of nursing where they're encouraging people to take mental health days. They have these wellness programs. They have the massage chair, the wellness room, the aromatherapy, all the things. But it's still inside the system that created the trauma.
Yep.
And so, yes, can I take a day off and relax, but I'm coming back to the thing that's triggering me? Can I go sit in the wellness room and cry and sniff some lavender salts? Sure, but then I come back to the unit that's stressing me. And so you cannot do one and without the other, because the wellness programs that I see now are solving a symptom. They're not solving the cause. And so me being burnt out, and I put that in quotes because I have my own philosophy on that.
Right.
But me being burnt out is a symptom, and all you're doing is treating my symptom.
Yep.
You're not taking away the thing that's causing the burnout. And so I would continually be burnt out because you're not solving this over here.
Right.
And so I would tell employers to manage the system. Change the system. Your nurses are burnt out for a reason, not because all 4 million of us decided that
we're banding together,
that we
don't want to work.
It's moral injury. It's overwork. It's underpaid. It's under resources. There's a lot of systematic things that are happening. That is why nurses feel the way they feel, even if they have the emotional intelligence to show up and reframe what's going on. It's still a toll on them because they're doing more work with less. And so I don't care about the bath salts.
Yeah.
And the Epsom salt. My body shouldn't feel this way.
Right.
Don't call me resilient because that means that I am bouncing back from trauma. Remove the trauma.
Right.
I don't want to be resilient. I want to be soft.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, especially like all of these things are just band-aids on top of an open wound that needs to be treated.
Yeah.
And it's almost sometimes feels like because nurses are in this role where you are treating wounds, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
nurses, you should figure it out.
Mhm.
It's like, no, it's happening to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
I need somebody else to figure it out.
Yes. Yes. Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I have one last question for you.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
What makes a great life?
Oh, I love that. I want to say knowing what your core desires are
Mm-hmm.
and just doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Being authentic and aligned with who you were designed to be and just living life based on your core desires. So for me, my core desires are time, financial, and recreational freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I live my life. The things that I say yes to should be getting me closer to time, financial, and recreational freedom.
Mm.
Plain and simple. That's how I make my decisions.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get me there, then the answer is no.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm going to speak for everybody watching. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't have any idea what their core values are.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say? What advice would you give? How did you find yours?
Yeah. So first, I read a book called Dare to Lead by Brene Brown,
Okay.
and that kind of changed my view on living life moving forward. That was like the start of this continuing need and desire to learn more about me and go
Mm-hmm.
inward. And Brene Brown on her website, her Dare to Lead website, she has a list of values. And part of a discussion questions or like activity for the book was pick your values now that you're an adult, not what was taught to you about your
Mm.
by your family and your culture and your clergy, not that,
Mm-hmm.
because those were given to you.
Yep.
Now that you're an adult and you've experienced life, you may not align with that anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
decide what your values are. You pick
Mm-hmm.
3 to 5 from this long list and then say, okay, these are my values. What do I do to make sure that I'm living these values?
Mm-hmm.
So when I picked my list, I kind of just grouped them to
Mm-hmm.
say, all right, there's a theme here that I want to do what I want, when I want, how I want.
Right.
And that a little bit of that has to do with me being an Aries and me
Mm.
knowing my energy type and
Mm-hmm.
how I want to live life and what makes me feel good every day, and putting that all together, the social intelligence, the divine intelligence, the emotional intelligence, and say, okay, if I had to theme this, it would be time, financial, and recreational
Hmm.
freedom. To have the money to play how I want, to travel how I want, to eat how I want, to take time off from work when I want,
Mm-hmm.
without me having to answer to anybody.
Yeah.
And that's what makes life great for me. And so for people who want to start, I would say figure out what your values are. From your values, see if there's a theme, and then those are your core desires. And then live life in alignment with that. Everything should be a yes
Mm-hmm.
leading to those core desires. So
Mm-hmm.
if motherhood and nurturing is really good for you, there's some people who love being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Then don't work a job where during the daytime or during the weekend you're not available for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go to soccer practice. You can't do carpool. You
Mm-hmm.
can't bake the brownies. You can't.
Right, because you're not living in your truth.
Yeah, and then you have this mom guilt that you're
Yep.
not showing up for your kids, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like say no to the job.
Right. Because that's not what your life is about. If you're living by your values.
You can find a job
Mm-hmm.
that's going to work for you. I work from home as a nurse manager.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yes,
Mm.
I work
That's
from
awesome.
home primarily. Um, I'm regional, so let me not say I work from home. I'm
Yeah.
regional. As long as I have Wi-Fi, I can
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And I visit my offices. I have 6 clinics that I manage, and
Mm-hmm.
I commute and I visit them, but that's on my schedule.
Right.
And it's primary care, so we're not open weekends, we're not open nights, we're not open holidays. If it's a snow day, we're not open, right? So that still pours into my time, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just so it all circles back. Use the phrase circle back, but it all comes back.
Put a pin in it. The corporate phases. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes.
It all comes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning when we started this conversation of like, you know, using nursing for you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
defining what your values are
Yes.
figuring out your emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
And bringing it to nursing. Not nursing defining who you are.
Yes.
And telling you your values. You telling nursing what your values are and making it work.
Exactly. Which is why I think a lot of people who leave nursing want to leave and start a business because they feel like they can't work in a hospital setting. And it's like, but you can. You just have to tweak it a little bit. If you understood business structure, okay, so my mind is going right now. All right. I'm about to go for a little bit.
Go ahead.
A lot of nurses are afraid to negotiate how to show up in nursing because the systems won't allow them to, right? A lot of nurses are paid on a scale, and when you come in, there's not really a lot of room for negotiation if you're a staff nurse because it's based on years of experience, it's based on a scale. Okay, all right, fine. The one thing that you do have control over is how many hours a week you work and what those hours are. You can negotiate that. If you created an LLC and made yourself an independent contractor where your job was paying the LLC and not paying you as a W-2 employee, you actually take home more money. Because right now, as a W-2 employee, the job is taking out benefits, right? They're taking out your Social Security, they're taking out your medical and dental and vision, they're taking out your retirement. They're taking that out and they're putting that to the side for you. But if you were a 1099 independent contract employee, your pay per hour is exactly what you get.
But don't you end up paying taxes on that later?
On the back end. You do, on the back end.
Right.
But you may actually be saving more if you do all that yourself on the back end. By having an accountant that is going to help you with your taxes, by having private insurance, and there's so many different ways in the marketplace that you can get that, by investing into your retirement through a Roth IRA. Like there's so many ways that you can do that without necessarily having an employer do that, and you'll come home with more money.
So let's say I'm a staff nurse at, I guess I won't give a name just so that we don't confuse ourselves. Let's say I'm a staff nurse in a hospital in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting onboarded and they're like, okay, fill out this paperwork, you're gonna be a W-2 employee. Or maybe I mentioned it in the interview, but I'm like, hey, I'm a 1099 employee.
So you can ask if you can be hired as an independent contractor 1099, and they may say yes, they may say no. If they say no and they have you down as a W-2, then what is the least amount of benefits that you can get based on your FTE? Because benefits are based on how many hours you work is how much benefits you get. So FTE, full-time versus part-time and all the things. Okay. If I can get the minimal amount over here and then supplement that on my own over here, it may work out best. It may work out best. Yeah. This is not a cookie cutter, one size fit all. You definitely would need to invest and think about different ways and options that you have. Do you have a significant other where you can go on their plan so you don't have to use the hospital's plan and you're saving money that way? I just want people to know that there's options. And you don't have to take what they give you off the bat. And if you can't negotiate dollars per hour, what else can you negotiate? Shift, hours worked, compensation for continuing education, reimbursement for education, going to conferences. Like, what else can you negotiate?
Yeah. And these are all such great topics. And are these things that you cover when you're doing your coaching with New Nurse Academy? If someone was interested in being like, hey, this is totally me right now. Like, I'm hearing you talk about time and financial freedom. I want that. Like, if they came to you, these are all things that you could.
So as far as becoming an independent contractor, that's not my wheelhouse. I am not an expert, but I know somebody who is. I know somebody who is. As far as negotiating, I know a little something, but I know somebody who's an expert. And I do not claim to be an expert in all these things. So I will help you with the professional development. I will help you with thinking about the what ifs and the options. And then I will route you to the person that can give you more information on the option you choose to take. Yes.
It's a great example of networking.
Yes.
How nurses need to do more of it for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh my God. The perfect place to end. I feel like I'm so excited to watch what you posted this morning. I'm like ready to watch this resume clip.
Yes.
But yeah, just thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about this for a little bit, so
Yeah.
it's nice to see you in person.
Yes.
And thank you guys for watching. Get to know a nurse every Monday, highlighting nurses in the Philly community, highlighting nurse businesses in the Philly community, just spreading joy and information for nurses about nurses.
Yeah.
So check us out on Instagram. You can find little clips of Tiffany on Instagram as well as her page to contact her. We will all be looking out for this book.
I know. I've been talking about this book so much now that I have to do it because people are asking for it. So I'm like, that's what I get. That's exactly what I get, but that's the accountability that I need. So it's okay. It's okay.
You're gonna go home and do your introvert self and write a
yes,
book.
yes. I'm gonna get it done. It's gonna get done. Thank you.
But enjoy your week, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Yes.
Bye.